Hey, welcome to Audiotopsy. We gave you a tasty little morsel there in the beginning. For those of you who are not of that era or do not recognize it, we are going to be delving into the hardest working man in metal, Ronnie James Dio, and his song Holy Diver this week. I'm excited about this one. But hey, thanks to everyone who tuned in last week. We had the Greta Van Fleeters show up in Thrift and watch and fill up the comments section, and we love that. So hope to see a repeat of that this week. For those of you who are new or don't know what we're doing here, we're doing a little bit of a twist on a reaction show. We're not really here to talk too much about the band or the music or to encourage or discourage you from listening to it. We are really here to evaluate the lyrics, doing some presuppositional analysis on the song lyrics. No writer writes lyrics without some sort of reason or message that they want to get across. And that is what we like to put the microscope on here at Audiotopsy. So come along for the ride, and we hope you like what we're doing.
What does it all mean? What does it all mean? I don't know. And we're trying to figure that out. Sometimes, I don't know, we just kind of guess. I grew up listening to music and wondering what they meant. What's the meaning behind this? Okay. Like, what's the story? And there were so many songs that I got wrong. I'm like, oh man, I was way off on the lyrics. Like, not only did I not know what the song was about, I didn't even understand the lyrics. Right. So, anyway, I think this is going to be an interesting show. Shout out to your friend, your Audiotopsy friend that you met at the conference a couple weeks ago, because Dio was on the list that he sent, or that he that picture that you sent over, Vic, and I picked Dio because of that. And here we are. We're talking about Holy Diver tonight, and I remember seeing this album cover when I was a kid. And I'm like, what is up? This is just pure evil. This priest is supposed to represent the good guy, and there's this demon creature beating him with chains down in the water. Like, I don't know. Anyway, kind of interesting. Never listening to it, being kind of standoffish, right? I did have cousins that were into metal, and I was like, nah, I don't know. My grandpa told me that I probably shouldn't listen to this.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I really wasn't a big Dio person when he was really getting in the early 80s. I was a little scared of some of the stuff too. You know, you see the Dio logo and you flip it and it says devil. You can see the stuff, and I'd be like, okay, I'm staying away from this. And then, and as I got older, you start listening to stuff, and I was like, yeah, he's got some pretty good songs, man. That dude can really sing. He really put some things into it. So I got to make one statement real quick. For everybody who was upset about Greta Van Fleet and the clothing they wore with Blades of Glory. Look, you can go back and find me wearing all kinds of crazy things over the years. So I can laugh with it too. It's not a problem. I made a bunch of stuff in spacesuits. So if you want to go back and look at me in some bands, we can do it. So, hey, Greta Van Fleet fans, more power to you. Dress any way you want. I love it.
You know, who knows? Like, yeah, I've probably been in some outfits and some hairstyles.
Oh, I can find them
about it. So far be it from me to criticize anybody's dress. I guess I just, I don't know. I kind of moved on from that. So
it's okay. Let's go. We just go on. We keep on, man. People are
Hey, anyway, mad respect out to the fans and friends of Greta Van Fleet who just showed up and just shared their feelings. I hope people show up today. So I guess why don't we just kind of jump into this and get into the song. This song is called Holy Diver by Ronnie James Dio, and the meaning, we know what he says, and then we know what we've heard. So let's take a listen.
swords.
Holy diver, you've been down too long in the midnight sea. Oh, what's becoming of me? Like the tiger, you can see his stripes, but you know he's clean. Oh, don't you see what I mean? Gotta get away, holy diver. Yeah.
Ride the tiger. You can see his stripes, but you know he's clean. Vic, come on, help me out here. What does this mean?
Dio, man, he was ahead of his time. Like, I know there's always been people into the Norse mythology and the dragons and the Lord of the Rings stuff, but you know, in what was it, 2001, when the Tolkien movies came out, and there's just been this resurgence of this type of genre. So, like, this guy, he was ahead of his time, man. So,
Way ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Holy diver, you've been down too long in the midnight sea. Oh, what's becoming of me? Ride the tiger. You can see his stripes, but you know he's clean. Oh, don't you see what I mean? No, I don't see what you mean, Ronnie. I don't.
I have no clue what he's talking about.
Oh man. Okay, so I did not listen to Dio back in the 80s. I was not into chick metal whatsoever, please. But I wasn't really into like the dude stuff. So it was much later before I acquired any sort of appreciation for Dio, Floyd, Zeppelin, Iron Maiden, that kind of thing. Those were like my brother's bands, and I didn't quite get it as a girl. But with that said, my brother loved Dio. He had every single album on record. And my brother was the typical teenager, and he played guitar, so he knew everything about every band he liked. He knew the background, he knew the songs, he knew the guitar player, he knew every piece of equipment on that guitar player's guitar and what kind of bridge he had and what if he changed the strings out, like everything, right? So I am just a bevy of information that's useless to anyone except Kenny C. But when it comes to Dio, my brother, it was all on records. And so he would show me, he'd point out every little thing on every metal record. You know, he'd point out the little combat hat on the gravestone on Master of Puppets. And it is really hard to look at the cover. There is an incongruency between the artwork on the cover of Holy Diver and the explanation of the song meaning as given by the band. So I have more to say, but I'll hand it off.
These albums and these album covers, I mean, there's a giant demon on the cover of this album, right? And you wonder why the fans of heavy metal got such a bad rap. It was like, okay, you're listening to satanic music, and that must mean that you are a Satanist, or you're into that, or you're okay with it. I never got it when I was a kid. I understood it later on. Okay. I understood it later on because for most of them, it wasn't about the imagery. Okay. It wasn't about the artwork. It was about the music, and it was about the vocal delivery of people like Ronnie James Dio, Bruce Dickinson, and Ozzy Osbourne. There was something about it, obviously. Amazing musicians, amazing vocalists, but for many of us, and especially in the home that I grew up in, I couldn't get past the evil imagery. We're going to watch a video about that later of Ronnie James Dio talking about that and how it makes sense that it fits so well, okay, in this genre. Kenny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, I was the same way when I was listening early on to stuff. I came into the rock stuff, but when I would see the covers of stuff like Dio and stuff, it was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but I was like, I wasn't ready to listen. I wasn't into that stuff. So to me, it's kind of interesting. And I always think that a lot of it, that the appeal that a lot of people, you think about it, is there's a rebellious nature to it also that kind of ties in with Lucifer, Satan, this thing. It's like that. I think a lot of kids maybe didn't even realize how great the music was, but they listened to it because they knew their parents didn't want them to. It was, don't be listening to that stuff. And then they, you know, and then they kind of was like, oh, well, and then they listened to it and you're like, is it really super satanic? His stuff, I think the other thing I think about, you already talked about with the artwork, is it's really funny is that the lyrical content and the actual artwork of the demon and the priest don't match up. And Vicky's completely right about that. I didn't realize that until I really looked at the lyrics. So I'm anxious to see what we come up with on that.
I don't know how quickly Katie can throw up an album cover of the Holy Diver album, but as Tom sort of alluded to, there's this huge demon creature who is throwing up the devil horns with his left hand, and in his right hand he's holding onto a big chain that is wrapped around a man in a clerical collar who is clearly struggling to get out of the water. So the unofficial story I got from my brother back in the 1980s, when Jeff was probably about 15, and where did he get it from? A magazine, a friend, who knows? I'm not saying this is what it really means. I'm telling you, this is the story that I first got, was that Holy Diver was some ode to this ancient practice in cultures where they would bury they would, you know, throw a rock around the priest's leg and throw him in the drink. You know, they would actually put these priests to death. And so that fits the album cover, and maybe that's where the rumor or that story started, because that is congruent with what the album artwork is saying. But as we'll dive in later, we'll find that the official story has completely changed now.
So let's go back and to the video here. This video, it makes me think of the movie Highlander, and I think it predates the movie Highlander. So, or Conan, you know, the Barbarian or something like that. So
yeah.
So here we go.
Shiny diamonds, like the eyes of a cat in the black and blue. Something is coming for you. Look out! Race for the morning. You can hide in the sun till you see the light. Oh, we will pray it's all right.
I mean, what do you think, like, it was when they're making these videos, right? And they're getting these costumes ready.
Oh, I'm sure at some point somebody said, hey, Ronnie, you look really scary and tough, man. No, they'll buy it. They're going to buy this, man. Get the sword and go with it. You know, it's fantasy. It's like, you know, if you walk down an alley and here comes Ronnie James Dio, 4'8" with a thing and his little afro thing and his sword, you'd be like, come on.
There you go, Kenny. There you go, Kenny. You apologize for the Blades of Glory. Yeah. And now you call him a 4'8" guy with, oh my.
Hey, people can pick it, man. I will say this. I became a bigger Ronnie James Dio fan after a while, because I had a guy that I played in a band with who sounded exactly like him. And he would sing these songs and they meant something more when I heard it. He was like, really, he wasn't in the Satan aspect of it. He was a pretty cool dude, and he would just talk about the songs. And I kind of went back through the whole collection, the Elf, him and Rainbow, him and Black Sabbath. And, you know, these songs, Holy Diver and them, were actually written when he was still in Sabbath. So they were going to be Sabbath songs that he was pushing together for that. So it's a lot of neat stuff with it. No, I'm not, you know, I'm a midget too. And I'm, you know, let's just go with it. So
you're digging yourself in deep.
Here's my sword.
Yeah, your axe.
I have my axe.
Oh man.
So let's see if we can make any more sense out of the lyrics if Katie has those.
Lyrics time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's hold on here. I don't have oops. Sorry, I lost my screen. Got shiny diamonds like the eyes of a cat in the black and blue. Something is coming for you. Look out.
Look out.
Look out.
Wait for the morning. You can hide in the sun till you see the light. Oh, we'll pray it's all right. Vic.
Dude, I'm going with my brother's interpretation here. It fits to me. The black and blue, like that could be like the sea at night or the sea before daylight, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I honestly, I don't know. Ronnie James Dio, he wasn't one of those guys that did drugs, right?
He claims that he did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
I almost feel like some people were trying too hard because Ronnie James Dio's voice was so good he could sing the phone book.
That's
you know?
where I think a lot of it came from. I think sometimes he would just sing, he'd be riffing off something. They'd say, "That sounds great." He'd go, "Okay, shiny diamonds," and he'd go through this little thing, and it just fit. And there's a lot of people who write lyrics like that they're like, "I don't know what this really means, but that's actually even
It's
better."
like Rainbow in the Dark.
Yeah, Rainbow in the Dark. Yeah, there's a lot.
What does it mean? Yeah.
Hmm.
So, well, he had some kind of a connection. We're going to hear about that in a little bit from his, interview that he did explaining this. But let's go ahead and let's continue through here and listen to more of this song, "Holy Diver" by Dio. Here we go. Except for, we need. Can you fill in the music for this part, Kenny?
Yeah.
We're getting.
Can you sing the guitar?
We're getting silenced again.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll do
okay.
that. Ooh,
Yeah. We need the sound effects. Holy Diver. So
Diver!
now this is going to seem like I'm throwing Vicki under the bus because I kind of am. But
Okay.
I was like, Vic, shouldn't we do the last in line? Shouldn't we? And she's like, no, Holy Diver, Holy Diver.
Well, this is even funnier. I texted you and said, "Man, the lyrics to the last in line are really we should." So then you said, "I just watched that video this morning," and I'm like, "I'm listening to it right now." Like, Tom, I'm getting scared. I don't know who's reading whose mind, but either way, it's frightening. So, but then Tom kind of put it to me like, "Well, we'll change if you want," and I'm like, "No, we'll go with Holy Diver." But check out the lyrics. Like, go look.
Yeah, I was trying to throw it on her, like.
I know.
Like saying I didn't want, I actually did want to change, but here we are. This is all, it's more about Ronnie James Dio than it is about the song.
And if you guys don't realize it, I don't know if you know this, but this is the reason this came into it. But this is officially the week of Ronnie James Dio's death. He died on May 16th.
Okay.
No way.
I did not know that.
Serendipity.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. Yes,
Wait,
what? It is May 16th. It sure is, man. That's why I said you guys going on to it. Hey, man,
that's
crazy.
Kind of
weird. I know.
That's crazy. So the day this is being recorded, and it was 2010, right? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
May 16th. Yeah, you can look it up, man. It's crazy.
Okay.
That's why I realized that. I was like, we're recording this on the day of this kind of,
Wow. Okay. Let's listen to some more of this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Get rid of the old sword.
Holy Diver, you're the star of the masquerade. No need to look so afraid. Jump on the tiger. You can feel his heart, but you know he's mean. Something can never be seen.
Ooh.
Holy Diver, you're the star of the masquerade. Jump on the tiger. I can't remember anything else.
It's jump on the tiger.
Jump.
Okay.
That's right.
So, Vic, help me out with this. Okay, here we go.
Dude.
Holy Diver, you're the star of the masquerade. You need to look so afraid. Well, I guess let me back it up again. The bridge, I missed that. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard as steel. Yeah, the vision never dies. Life's a never-ending wheel. Say, Holy Diver, you're the star of the masquerade. You need to look so afraid. Jump, Vic, on the tiger, but you can feel it. You can feel his heart, but you know he's mean. Some light can never be seen. Yeah. So the story behind this song is this is kind of crazy. Ronnie James Dio grew up a Catholic, okay? And we talked a little bit about, we mentioned the idea of rebellion. Vic, Kenny, I've heard so many rock stars especially talk about their Catholic upbringing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And say how it pushed them into what they were doing, this rebellion. And it also formed their thoughts and their feelings towards Christianity, okay? Catholicism more specifically. And I think this is interesting because over the years, I have talked to a lot of people that have been Satanist, and they profess their hatred for Christianity. And then I began talking to them, and I found out that they went to a Catholic school. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, no, that's not Christianity, that's Catholicism. Okay, but obviously, I grew up, Protestant, and I was taught the difference. Okay, so people that grow up in Catholic school, in Catholic church, they're taught that that's Christianity.
Right.
So I can't, man, I could tell you some heartbreaking stories of Satanists that I've known that went to Catholic school and that were teased, that were abused. There's a story I want to tell, but we don't have time. I talked to this Satanist over the phone, and it was sad. It was real sad. So Ronnie James Dio mentions the same thing about getting hit with a ruler. That's the same thing Bruce Springsteen talked about. And can you imagine what kind of an effect that would have on you as a child, being physically abused in the setting of what's supposed to be a shelter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that. I went to a private school all the way through junior high. It was not Catholic. And I was treated pretty poorly. That was where all my bullying happened. And what's interesting is I didn't leave those 3 years thinking that God or the Bible was illegitimate, but I did leave that school at 13 years old thinking Christians were all hypocrites. And it took me a very long time to think of Christians as safe people. Like, I considered myself a Christian, but I was a lone Christian, like a Lone Ranger Christian. And I didn't feel comfortable in churches. Like, it took me decades to not think that Christians weren't the creepiest people on the planet. And it was because of the same thing. I went to a private school and they were mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, Vic. And I know a little bit, just about those stories, and and what you went through. You've talked about it, on the show. So I guess, you know what? Praise God that you made it through. Some people did not. I remember reading Bruce Springsteen's book, I don't know how many years ago, like 7 years ago. And he talked about how some semblance of his belief still remains, but it was so warped, right?
Yeah.
So warped. Kenny, thoughts?
Yeah, I will say this. I mean, I have ties to the Catholic Church, mainly from I got married in the Catholic Church. I am not Catholic, and I wasn't Catholic. I had to go through a lot of stuff to do that. I didn't really believe in the stuff with it, but I will say there were some aspects of it that I found that I always tell people all the time. I know what stuff I know about the Catholic Church, and there's some terrible things that tie behind there. I mean, I get it, but I've also known some people that were born and raised Catholic, died Catholic, that were some of the best believers in Christ I'd ever been in, and they influenced me on stuff. And I've saw people who let their lives be changed by the Catholic Church. Yet they were really great people, being in situations that I never understood, like people being like almost excommunicated, where they couldn't take communion in church because they'd been divorced. And this was like a woman that I was just like, she was amazing, man, but she still followed the Catholic religion and did all that. And I'd be like, when I got married, they were like, well, she can't have communion during the wedding with us. And I'm like, well, then we're not doing it here. We're not going to do it. I think that's crap. And so we ended up not having that during the ceremony when it happened. So and like I said, I try to cut myself away from it because I do a lot of research. As you get into all these things, all of a sudden everything is bad. But there's aspects in anything, man. There's good and bad and everything. But I definitely think there's a whole lot of stuff in Catholicism that is questionable. But I'm not a throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of person. I know some people that are great Catholics, just like I know some people that are great Muslims. I know some people that are in these things, and I try not to cut and dry across the border with that. But when you see these stories, I always think about even early on. I mean, there's a comedic aspect to it too, like the Blues Brothers, man. When you see that movie, they have the Dunn and the ruler and all that stuff, and it's like, but there's a painful aspect behind that of truth. That really did happen. And so, yeah, man, that's some crazy stuff.
Well, as Protestants, in comparison to Catholics, we believe in the same God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. We believe in that same Trinity. And obviously the big problems that we have with Catholicism is, probably the most obvious are praying to Mary, to anybody else other than Jesus, and confessing our sins to a priest and things like that. I would agree that there are, look at the Catholic family structure. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, a lot of the kids that grow up Catholic, for the ones that, where things don't go wrong, it's a strong family. So I'm not here to bash on anybody. I'm here to proclaim the gospel of Jesus. No doubt. And
you see that also, and when you see stuff like a lot of Roman Catholic stuff, and like the mafia and these people that are doing some crazy, terrible stuff, and they have this unique and almost perfect family structure at life. Grandma's cooking, yay! We're all get together. We have family meals. We do all this stuff. And they're it's the mafia, but it's still the stuff you watch it and go, okay, that's really it's weird if you're not a Catholic. When you're a Protestant, you see that and go, okay, that's odd, man. How do they have such great family structure? But yeah, that's another show where we dress up like pilgrims and sing Little House on the Prairie.
Another thing to mention about Ronnie James Dio, and I don't know if this is covered in the interview, but his hand symbol that he gives, it's kind of funny how many people are trying to make a claim on this hand symbol. Yeah. I've heard him tell this years and years ago. He got that from his grandmother. And it's like a curse that she would do to somebody. It's a gypsy.
Yeah, that's right.
And then when he said that, it started up this big feud with Gene Simmons, who said that he came up with it. And I actually, when I found out the day that Ronnie died, that he had passed, I got this picture in my head of like a perfect like one cell cartoon, but I can't draw. So hey, anybody out there, of Ronnie down in the hellfires with like Satan standing in front of him, throwing him the devil horns, going, now who came up with that? And then Ronnie like looking all freaked out.
Oh wow.
And obviously this was a hand symbol used by Anton LaVey. He claims the horns stand for the devil and the three fingers down stand for the denial of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
I've seen that too.
And that he kind of predates them all, because his picture on the back of the Satanic Bible, which came out in 1969, if it's the same picture that has always been on there, he's making that hand symbol.
Maybe what Ronnie meant was he was the one that came up with using that as like a rock and roll sort of gesture. Like I'm the first one where people at my concerts would do that,
right?
Just throwing it out there. Maybe that was what he meant.
Yeah. So let's listen to some more of Holy Diver by Ronnie James Dio. I don't know how much we have left, but we got some other stuff to get into. So let's take a look here. Oh yeah, here's a little alien innuendo.
Montage. Is this Vivian Campbell, Kenny?
I think it is. Yeah, I think this is Vivian.
Or maybe even reptilian is what it looked like.
Ooh.
Holy diver, you've been down too long in the midnight sea. Oh, it's becoming of me. No, ride the tide. You can see his stripes, but you know he's clean. Oh, don't you see what I mean?
So I never finished explaining the story where he says he made up this idea where what if, Jesus was on a different planet and he had to go somewhere else to do the same thing, and the people there didn't want him to go. Now, I don't know how you get that out of those lyrics. Okay.
Or the video.
I've seen that too. I was like,
or the video, or the album art, even that line in that last bit there, holy diver, you've been down too long in the midnight sea. And on the cover, you have a priest in a clerical collar with chains around him, which would obviously make him sink. I just think off his razor here, guys.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is as you get older, and you more research and all these things, then you start looking at this stuff in your brain that I wouldn't have thought of this 30 years ago. But now you start thinking about chaos and Leviathan and that water imagery, and you read that. But I only think that's because I've studied it later in life. Back then, I don't think that's what's going on, but it seems to seep through a little bit with that imagery of the artwork, the water. And that's, so the Christ thing about him, I've read that before too, and I never quite figured that one out.
Yeah. And there you go. To me, that, that image, that album cover was a direct assault on
the Catholic Church.
The Catholic Church, yeah, definitely.
And was his demon called Murray? Is that what it says? The cover features Murray.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
So
they all got mascots, right?
Eddie and Murray.
So
Eddie Murray.
I know, there was a
Eddie Murphy. What?
Yeah,
oh no, Eddie's gonna come on here. Hold up.
Vic was the mascot for Megadeth. So I know there was a Christian artist that wanted to make an album cover of that was reversed, and it was going to be them dressed up as a priest, and it was going to be that demon down in the water, and he was going to be beating the demon. So I have a friend that used to be an artist. He got commissioned.
Here's the thing. You talking about the aspects of Catholicism that's really bad. That aspect there of what whoever did that, the demon chaining the priest could be being a whole thing of like they're fighting back against the patriarchy of the Catholic Church. There's a whole aspect of that. So there's some really interesting stuff with that, man.
Well, I can't, I'm not going to defend him, but that's a possibility where there's going to be false prophets that are being punished.
Yeah.
That could definitely be a meaning to that. I wasn't thinking that when I was a kid.
Me either.
So let's finish out this song and then get into some other stuff here, because some people might be surprised to find out Ronnie James Dio's beginnings before he got into metal. So here we go. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't know, man. I think a lot of those lyrics are nonsense.
I do too.
I don't know how you get that meaning out of that, but he tries to explain it here in a clip we're going to watch in a little bit. But
Yeah.
for people that don't know, so let's go ahead and show Katie the clip of Ronnie Dio, or it's got the record. It shows a record, and this is the music that he used to make before he before he got into metal. So take a listen to this here.
There he is.
On the left.
An angel is missing from heaven tonight, and if they start counting, they'll see that I'm right. No, she's not in heaven, for how could she be when that angel is here with me?
So there you kind of get an idea of where it started. Now, doesn't that make sense that that's a natural progression? I mean, how many of those bands could have actually went into metal?
Yeah.
He's incredible, man.
No kidding.
Yeah, his voice was velvety, man. Velvety.
I never heard that. I didn't know that about Dio, but that was awesome.
So
Cool.
here's a quick story. And this is the way that I found out about this. Is I used to work with this guy named Burton Stahl. Burton Stahl just passed away just a few weeks ago. Burton Stahl was the bass player in a one-hit wonder band called the Music Explosion. Okay. And have you heard of this band?
I have.
Yeah.
That's
so the Music Explosion, and Katie, if you've got that Wikipedia link. So I worked with the bass player of the Music Explosion, and they had a hit song called "A Little Bit of Soul." All right. And sometimes we would have opportunity to talk and stuff, and he would tell me stories. And he told me the story one time about how they were playing a they were playing a gig, and back in the days when Ronnie James Dio was making this kind of music, that's how he met Ronnie Dio. So anyway, I guess they later on, they became friends, and later on they got like backstage passes or something to go see Dio years later, and they couldn't get in. And yeah, here you go, the Music Explosion. So you can see there, these guys are from Mansfield, Ohio, and I don't know what just happened. Hold on, my screen keeps going away. So and you can kind of scroll down there a little bit, maybe. I forget what I was wanting to share, but as you can see, there on the right, Burton Stahl, he passed away. Super cool guy. He told me all kinds of stories about the insides, ins and outs of the music business, and having stuff in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and how he had like a free membership because he was a one-hit wonder and all this stuff. So Burton Stahl acclaimed for the opening bass riff on Little Bit of Soul, passed away at age 75 on April 27, 2023, after a brief illness in his beloved hometown of Mansfield, Ohio. Burton, he just told me, man, Ronnie was just such a sweet guy, a nice guy. And of course, I was like, wow, that's kind of cool, man. You knew Ronnie James Dio before he was Ronnie James Dio, before he did Dio. And he told, and I was like, so I went home from work and I'm like, what? No, this guy's smoked a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying? Wacky tobacco back in the day. I went home and looked it up, and sure enough, there, I found that evidence and those pictures of Ronnie James Dio in those, what kind of bands would you call them? Those doo-wop kind of bands.
Yeah. Man, that's cool.
Yeah.
So if I can backtrack a little bit, I never saw the Holy Diver video before. I've just heard the song 10 bazillion times. And so just an observation from that last clip, as it's sinking in, I'm kind of getting some aha moments here, I think. At the very beginning, he's, sword fighting this guy with like a sack over his head with just one of the eyes. At the very end, so he's got a sword and he gets rid of it, and he's bequeathed a different sword now. And then he goes in, and then you see all the people slaughtered, and then he puts the sword up to separate the eyes, and then it superimposes the beast over him. And then the very last scene you see is from the perspective of Dio, because you're seeing that eye hole. And so he's actually now dressed as the original guy that was the adversary at the beginning. And I'm wondering if at some point he switched sides there. I'm trying to get some meaning out of this.
Yeah, song. I'm sure they had an idea about it. I guess I didn't catch that. So
yeah,
I don't know
that too. I wondered.
Interesting.
But
Kenny?
Yeah.
Vicky's got the idea on that. That's pretty crazy and stuff.
I don't know.
The biggest thing is though is I think that what I've mostly read that Ronnie would say a lot of times is that the same thing with a lot of artists. They would write it, put it out there, and once it's out there, it doesn't really matter what he thought when he did it. It's really out in the public, and they can decide what they want. They can kind of go, "Oh, I think it's about this," that's what the song ends up becoming about. So it's kind of smart because it's very ambiguous.
I want to be careful here because I know I'm treading dangerous ground, but I see similarities between the way that Ronnie wrote and the way that Greta Van Fleet wrote. So,
no, don't go there.
Yeah. So, and we got educated last week because we didn't do our homework. Apparently, these guys, the Greta Van Fleet group, they grew up Catholic boys. So maybe there's something to growing up Catholic that causes you to make music like this.
Maybe, and we're medieval,
absolutely,
decades out of style.
Yeah. So remember when we covered After Forever, and it was about the conflict between Protestants and Catholics in Ireland, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend. I was out seeing a friend of mine's band play this weekend, and he had just started listening to the Audiotopsy stuff. And he knew I was doing it, but he hadn't really checked it out. And he was talking about that. He's like, "Man, I listen to stuff. He says, this is really cool. Y'all got a really cool show going." I was like, "Yeah, man, you should check it out." He's like, "I love the one with the Black Sabbath, man, with the After Forever." He goes, "That's not something." He's like, "I didn't really know that song that well, and it was interesting to see." And I was like, "Yeah, that was a good one."
Hi, Kenny's friends.
Hi, Kenny's friend. He's probably listening. Hi, Randy. What's happening, buddy?
Let's listen to this interview with Ronnie James Dio. Go ahead, Vic.
I was gonna say, I think that makes us up to like 6 fans now.
Yeah, we've got
Well, we had more, but Tom had to call Greta Van Fleet a cult. Thanks, buddy.
I think you're the one that said
say that.
What?
I know he called them bozos. Remember?
Somebody in the
said.
comments said that. They're not a cult. I was like,
everybody's mad because I won't get off the Led Zeppelin thing.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hey, when the guitarist, I can't remember which one's Jake, but the guitar player, he was on, Nikki Sixx has this little YouTube podcast where he has just guitar players on and they play their favorite riff, and it's a really cool show. And the guitar player for Greta Van Fleet was on, and this was years ago. And Nikki Sixx says like, "Oh, you're a big Jimmy Page fan, huh?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." So he doesn't deny it. So they love Led Zeppelin. Everybody else does too. Like,
and it's the music that their parents shared with them. Same thing, it's what we heard growing up. That's why we like what we like. We become emotionally connected to that music.
Absolutely.
So anyway, let's take a listen to this interview here, and Ronnie James Dio explains the meaning of this song, Holy Diver. So here we go.
Tell me about what Holy Diver is about.
Well, Holy Diver actually is a really kind of religious song. I mean, it's once again based from a religious attitude. I have a tendency to do that a lot too, because I think that especially the religion that I grew up with, Catholicism, has gotten itself so far behind the current current method of healing, because it's so steeped in the past, that I've always had to go at them for really teaching by fear more than teaching by love. Of course, they teach by love too, but I was always afraid as a kid of the nuns, the big penguins who were going to like smack you in the head with a ruler, which is what they always did anyway. Or the fact that, if you do something wrong, you're going to go to hell, and, you're going to suffer terribly. And whoa, I mean, give me a break here. What's going on? Here's your God. He's that man nailed up on a cross there. Oh my God. Again, it was so much more by fear that I just really divorced myself from most of those attitudes. So anyway, the song Holy Diver is really about a Christ figure who on another place, not Earth, has done exactly the same as we apparently experienced, or supposed to have experienced on Earth, dying for the sins of man so that man could start again and be cleansed and do it properly. So the same thing happened on this other far distant planet. And all the people on this planet are saying to him, they're calling him the Holy Diver. Holy Diver because he's about to go to another place, to another planet, another world, to do what he did on this place, save people from their sins, or absolve them from their sins by having himself killed. And the people are saying to him, "Don't go, no," innuendos of tigers and stripes and hearts and being eaten and you'll die. And it was meant to show just how selfish humanity is. That this one form of humanity on this one world said, no, don't go down there and save anybody else. Stay here. We need you. You're ours. That's what that was about.
We're talking about religion, and we've talked to people about religion on this journey, and about Christianity.
So let's stop it right there for a minute, and then we'll pick it back up. Again, I don't know how you get that out of those lyrics, but if he says it was in his head, then okay, then it was in his head. But interesting anyway.
Well, you got to think with his Catholic background, he knew he knew the story, he knew the history, he knew the stories of Christ and all these things, but he was only getting part of the story, and he got all the pain and all the stuff and all these things, and he wasn't getting. It sounds like he didn't really get a whole lot of the love aspect of what was going on, and this whole thing of Christ's redemption and salvation, and that kind of got skipped for him, man. And I think
a lot of fear.
I think that happens in a lot of Catholic people, that they're not getting the full story. They don't know the whole picture, and I think that's why there's a situation with that. I could see this storyline also being that would be Jesus when he died actually descending into hell. That can be that whole thing, the Holy Diver. That situation could be there too. So hey, why can't? That's just as valid as his, I guess. I don't know. I can make it that.
Yeah. Well, I want to take a look at some more of his comments, because he gets asked a little bit more about specifically Satanism and religion and the connection to metal. And I think he says some things here that I agree with. So let's take a look at some more of this interview. Guys, if you want to stop at any point and make a comment, then just go ahead and do that. But let's listen. Let's go ahead and listen to some more of this here.
Satanism, and Satanism, as you know, has run through metal music, or at least satanic imagery. And we were in Norway, where a lot of these bands take this stuff very seriously, to the point where they burned down churches, and there's been murders and in that scene. I'm interested to get your perspective on the satanic content in metal, and also how religion has played a part in the music that you use.
Well, once again, religion has played a part in my music more from a dissatisfaction, a discontented kind of view, and that I believe that any religion is a great religion, because it gives people the strength. Some people the strength to go on. They have to have faith, and they believe that the ultimate goal of reaching nirvana or heaven is because they'll be good people. Hey, can't ask for more than that. That's great. Religion should be teaching love, and it should be teaching that that there is something probably higher than we are out there, than so to lessen our sense of importance. So you know, as far as religion goes, I've always dealt with it that way. That
So let's stop it right there real quick. He's obviously just kind of come to the conclusion of universalism. Hey, if it works for you, whatever you believe is true.
Right.
And it makes sense from what we understand, what he's been through, and the fear, the abuse, I would say child abuse, you know, that took place in a lot of these, you know, Catholic schools, put him in that place. And can you imagine graduating and getting out of there and saying, okay, I want nothing to do with that. I felt no love, okay, no peace at all, which is a shame because a lot, for one thing, people paint with a broad brush and they assume that without knowing that Catholicism and Protestant, you know, Christianity is the same thing. It's not. It's not even close. But there's no convincing people that have been through those situations. So
well, and I will say this also. This kind of comes into something that I've read about the artwork of the album. That when he did it, you know, there's a monster that's throwing the priest in the water chained up, and he'd actually said at one point, says they asked him, "Why do you have a monster drowning a priest?" And he said, "How do you know it's not a priest drowning a monster?" Now, think about the things that go on behind a lot of stuff, the speculation with the Catholic Church, with the priest and the pedophile type things, that he's saying you can't judge a book by its cover or know what they're going on with it. The priest could have been a priest that was doing these terrible things, and he's throwing him he's getting rid of that. When I read that, I was like, oh, wow, okay, there's a much deeper symbolism here. And he says, you know, it's calling judgment on someone before you truly know the entire story. So when you're watching that, you're going, okay, I can see that with the priest going in being like, oh, I want to, you know, what's going on? We don't know. I know some great priests. I've read some stories about some terrible ones too. So,
well, and to be fair, Catholicism is what he's known, but there are religious leaders across all
everything. Yes.
Different denominations and belief systems that have been abusive.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. And there have been even in you know, groups, you know, that I don't agree with, there have been people with integrity. So there's plenty of examples of Christians that you know, that walk righteously, that, you know what I'm saying, as much as you can.
You know, it's one of those things of like, people are really quick to judge people on stuff, the sins that they can see, the ones that they can see outwardly, and they're very quick to judge people on that stuff. When I always tell people, I say, I guarantee you have something in your closet you would never want people to know about. And I think that's a big thing to look at and say, we have to be careful about how we judge people, just because we can see what they're doing and not see what, you know, we could be holding on to stuff. So that's just the thing with me. I get flack for it sometimes, but I truly do believe that, you know, you see somebody, you're like, well, they're doing this. And I'm thinking, I guarantee you've got stuff that you never want anybody to know about. We all do. We all do. And if you're not, you're lying to yourself, and, you know, you're a sinner. Sorry.
So, I think that's an interesting response. How do you know it's not a priest?
That's what I thought too. Yeah. When I read that, that's the one that got me the most, where I looked at it and went, oh my gosh. That is a great analogy, because we know everybody's heard the stories. Does it have, you know, my feeling is, if all these stories with the priest, the Catholicism, and the pedophile stuff is true, how did they survive that? How do they keep going, man? To me, that's like, a lot of it just got swept under. Oh, this priest got busted here, we'd ship him somewhere else.
It's a very powerful institution.
Yeah, it is.
I kind of feel that the more Dio tries to explain what this song means, the more muddied it gets. So is it a priest getting chained up? Is it the beast getting chained up? Is it a Jesus figure from another planet getting chained up? Now, here's another interesting thing. We didn't really highlight this, but one of the lyrics in the outro, after all this stuff, one of the lyrics in the outro is "Holy Diver, Soul Survivor," which means everybody's dead except the priest in the chain.
Oh wow.
I think it's just getting more and more muddied. By the end of it, I don't even think the diver died. So
Well, I'll be interested to see what the listeners think of this song and what it means, and if they've heard any urban legends or stories about this. So make sure you put the comments below. Let's listen to some more of this interview. Go ahead, Ken.
One second. I just want to say this. When Vicki was talking just a second ago, I thought she said the more he described it or tried to explain it, the more money he made, but she was just saying muddy. And my brain went, I was like, yes, you're right. The more they convolute it, the more money was being made because it sells.
So true.
It really is. So, and then I realized, I was like, oh no, she said muddy. But, and that, I got that too. So yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go.
But I think maybe sometimes the teachings don't hold true to themselves. Thou shalt not kill, an eye for an eye. No, I don't think so. So that's why for me, the whole world is heaven and hell. That song is about that. The fact that we, in my mind, we live in heaven, we live in hell. God and the devil are inherent in each of us. And it's our choice to make. You can take the road to good and take the road to bad. Well, we have a choice. The optimum way to go, of course, is to do the good thing. I totally agree with that. But again, because religion is taught so badly, I think that I've used it as an example of humanity somehow. I mean, I've done it with other subjects as well, but religion seems to be one that really works. Now, in the music itself, you're talking about generally a lot broader kind of music, heavier, obviously, doomier at times. It just fits the genre. If you're going to write a gothic song, you're probably not going to write it about how your love affair broke up. So your subject matter becomes a little bit more narrowed. And certainly evil is a great subject. Evil is dark. Evil is something that we know about, but don't understand why it happens and don't really ever meet up with the devil. So again, it's kind of having to use your own imagination. It's really the same with a God, unless you believe that it's a white guy sitting with a robe on a chair someplace. You know, obviously it could be an Asian guy doing that, or it could be a woman, or it could be whatever. You know, we don't know these things. So it's good. It lets us use our imagination a little bit. But the themes around evil are just so much more cognizant to the music that we make because of minor keys, because minor keys are so prevalent in most metal. It's hard to write a song in an entire minor key and talk about, you know, nice things. It just is. So it's a vehicle. It's a good vehicle. In my case, I've done it differently.
So let me pause him right there real quick and let me do my thing. So, hey, rest in peace, Ronnie James Dio. No evidence that you got the truth, which is sad. But I believe we can know the truth. He said, we don't know these things. We don't know who God is. I believe we can know. I believe I do know who God is. And I don't say that in arrogance. I say that in confidence. Okay. So I want to encourage anybody out there that might be listening that maybe they came over because, hey, they're talking about the artist I like, Ronnie James Dio, and the song I like. So I believe that we can know. I believe that the gospel of Jesus Christ cannot be refuted. It cannot be debunked. Many people have tried. I'm not going to do it here. I don't need to. The gospel can defend itself. If you want the apologetics, go look for it. Do you want the truth? That's what I want to know. If you want the truth, then run after it. Run after it. And the next question I'll ask is, are you willing to change your life for the truth? And if you're somebody like Ronnie James Dio that has been abused in a religious situation, God can heal you. He can heal your heart. He can heal your mind. And he can set you free from that pain of the past. So sad for Ronnie, but it's not too late for you if you're listening. I am telling you what, we have testimony after testimony after testimony of people being healed and set free and their minds being touched and just healing from mental illness and all of these things. And it happened for so many. It can happen for you. The God, the living Christ of the Bible is real. He loves you. He cares for you. He knows you and he wants you. So, hey, that was my just little 1 minute preaching. But I wanted to come in and correct real quick on those things. If you guys, any comments on that, guys?
Well, you know, and I'm going to say this: when you start to get your theology from the rock stars, it's going to be wrong. I'm just telling you, people all the time. That's why I go to it and look at it and say, ultimately, man, everything, the truth is in the Bible. You have to go and find that. You have to look and read that. Right there in that clip, Ronnie made a mistake. He said, "Thou shalt not kill," and I said, "It's thou shalt not murder." There is a difference in that situation with that, and I always realize that. I don't know how many translations show that, but that's something I look at it and somebody says, "Oh, well, this is bad." Well, it's murder. It's intention. There's a stuff with that. There is a difference in that when you read the actual 10 Commandments and see that stuff. So there's little tiny things. It only takes that little bit of a twist, and somebody goes, "Oh, well, okay, that's what this means." And that's no, you gotta go get it from the source, man. Get it from the Word.
Yeah, amen. I just want to reiterate that. I like what you just said. Don't get your theology from rock stars, even if the song is a religious song.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why I maybe sometimes come off contradictory on Audiotopsy is I really like a lot of this music, and I really think a lot of these people are extremely talented songwriters. But I learned in my youth, because when I was young, I did what a lot of us do. I worshipped these rock stars, and I thought they were amazing. I thought they were otherworldly. I dreamt about meeting them and getting their autograph, and the things that you do when you're a kid, right? And now, because I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and my priorities are different, I can appreciate good musicianship, a good song. I can recognize that someone's talented, but I do not have to admire that human being. And I don't have the time in life anymore to put posters up on my wall and admire human beings who are in the same fallen body that I'm in. So if anybody ever wonders, like, man, I don't know where you guys stand on this. You talk about these songs like they're great, but then you're calling them bozos. And well, that's why we can appreciate good music when we hear it. It doesn't mean we have to put human beings on a pedestal and admire and revere them, nor do we need their world view to steer our experience.
Yeah.
And their music, they're preaching their worldview. So it's very difficult to disconnect. And I would warn anybody about listening to any of this music for any extended period of time, because the repetition can get to you and can wear you down. Okay. We believe in Dake of Demonoia, right? Doctrines of demons. And there's definitely much of this stuff has been inspired straight from hell, so to speak. Okay. I can appreciate a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie, but I'm not going to become a Scientologist just because he's a good actor. He makes awesome action movies. So
out. That's the second time, Tom.
He's going again. He's going again. Let's see if we can get a couple more minutes of this interview before we pull the plug on this tonight, guys. Here we go. More Ronnie James Dio.
I've always tried to be someone who has warned people about the fact that there is good and there is evil. And you have a choice, and your best choice is probably not to be evil. This is what evil can do to you. This is what evil has done to the people that I know. Depends on your perspective of evil, though. Drugs are evil. Too much indulgence in bad things is evil. Hanging around with evil people is going to beget you to be an evil person. These are the themes that I've tried to deal with in a darker way. Not to say that the devil's lurking around the corner. I'm not one of those who goes to that. That has been a problem, that people have taken metal music to that extreme.
Quick. Drugs are evil. I don't know. I get what he's saying. We understand what he's saying. Okay.
Sure.
But I think drug dealers are evil. A tool that can be used for good or evil medicine. You know what I'm saying? Is a very, life-altering thing. But we get what he's saying there. Okay. In a way, it's like people object. Okay. It needs a person behind it. And most of the reason of abuse, and they're trying to kill pain. And I would say that what happened to the person was, and what happened in those Catholic schools and churches is evil. And the same thing happened in Protestant churches, by the way. We know this, and we could go to many clips and videos of Christian pastors who have horribly abused people. So those things are evil. Anyway, let's go ahead and pick it up. Sorry, did you guys have something you want to say? No? Okay. We'll finish. Yeah, we'll try to finish this out here.
Of course, we have the satanic phenomenon and the fact that a lot of metal bands have aligned themselves very closely with evil or with Satan and what Satan represents.
It's a symbolism too, isn't it? I mean, it's great symbolism for what they're trying to portray.
What do you think then about that satanic element in metal?
Well, I'm not a Satanist, so therefore, I guess I'll have to give them the right to have their religious belief, because that's what that will be. I mean, really, it's like witches at the end of the day. I mean, witches are normally pretty good people, and you know that you only get the satanic end of it that happens that way. Yeah, sure.
So okay, and that's enough right there. We don't need to skip ahead. We kind of get the idea. I mean, that right there, that's a outright renunciation of Satanism on his behalf. You know what I'm saying? Obviously saying, hey, if you want to be a Satanist, go for it. Let me know how that goes for you. You know?
Yeah, he blatantly said, I'm not a Satanist. So
yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, but he used very satanic themes to make a lot of money.
But his baseline blink rating changed right after he said that, so maybe he really is.
Oh my gosh, too much.
So anyway, as I've said, we want to hear from you guys. What do you think? I mean, we've heard what you think, and we especially have heard what you think if you're a fan of Greta Van Fleet. We heard from you, and you're welcome to continue. I wonder, is there any one person that has picked up and come back for a second for another episode after that? I don't know. Probably not if they're a Greta Van Fleet fan, but that would be interesting. Hey, folks, we mean no harm. We come in peace. But we want to know what you think. Where were you at the first time you heard Dio? Do you remember going to the record stores and looking at the album covers of bands like Dio and Iron Maiden and, you know, some of these other groups out there? There's just like, what is going on with these guys? So pretty crazy stuff. But hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with us this week. We appreciate it. Kenny C, always a blast. Hey, Vicki Joy and I are going to be back on Monday with more riveting through the black journalism that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.
That's right.
Was that convincing?
Riveting content.
Yes.
Don't miss it.
Riveting content.
Real dark news, spiritual warfare and stuff and all of that. Yeah. So that's what we do here. Hey, we love Jesus, and we want to tell you about him, and we're also warning you about the dark side. And we're saying, hey, there is hope for everybody, no matter where you came from, no matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you came from. It matters where you're going. Hey, throughtheblack.com is the website. That's where you can find all the links to all of our archives. And come on over to the website and say hi to us there. Say hi to us on the other shows. God bless you guys. Bye.